In today's video, I'm going to show you something that you can do in React that is likely going to allow for your functional components to be just a little bit more clean, and it might allow you to handle some kind of different errors and default values in a little bit easier of a way. So what I've got going on here is I have a card component here, and all this card component is going to do is render out someone's name, age, and job. And then I'm going to render that component within my overall app component that you see down here. And this card component is going to take 3 props. It's going to take a name, age, and job. And as you can see, when I render it out, I pass the name, age, and job all to my card component. And assuming you're familiar with React, React is going to pass these props here as a object to my card component. And on this object, the props object, it's going to contain a name, age, and job property with the values corresponding to whatever values I pass here. And currently, within my card component, I'm just rendering out props.name, props.age, and props.job. And, if we look at my web browser here, that totally works. I get Joe, 30, and Dev, because those are the props that I pass here. So it is working. However, I think that there's potentially a better way to do this, in which, like right here, we're kind of repeating ourselves quite a bit, in which we're like props.name, props.age, props.job. We're kind of adding a decent amount of code there with props. And just repeating that a decent amount. Now, you could argue that that is more self-describing, like you're taking those values from your props, which I could see an argument for that. But I generally like to do this in a little bit different way. And, if you're going to handle errors here, so let's say that someone didn't pass a name property, well, you might have to give it a default value and do something like this, or give it another name here, which that can just kind of messy up a little bit the rendering of your components and messy up kind of your JSX. So what do I think is a better way you can do this? Well, I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you might see out there. So one way you might see is you might see someone take these values right from your props, right at the top of your function. So you might see someone go, okay, well, my name is equal to props.name. And then you wouldn't need to use props anymore, and you can just render out your name here. And as you can see, that works just fine. However, this kind of gets us into the same issue to where we're kind of repeating props a lot and props a lot. So I think a improvement to this would be, instead of kind of doing props.name, props.age, you can just destructure your name, age, and job straight from your props here. Now, this isn't the final solution, but as you can see here, I think that this does kind of clean up a little bit kind of the rendering of this card component a touch, to where we're just taking these values from our props here and rendering that out right here. And as you can see, that still works. But I think that an even better way of doing this is, instead of destructuring them on this line here, I think that's kind of, why put this in the body of your function? Why not just destructure these values here straight away within your function parameters? So we can destructure the name, age, and job properties right away in my function parameters, because I know I'm going to get passed a props object here, and I expect to get the name, age, and job properties on it. So I can just destructure those right away. And you can see that still works here as expected. And I think that this definitely cleans up your code a little bit, in which now you don't have the props all along all these renders here, and you just destructure those right away from your props. I also think this allows you to provide default values very easily here, in which here I could say, well, okay, well, maybe when I'm using this card component, I already know that a lot of my cards here are going to have a job that is equal to developer. And here I'll just put dev. So maybe when I call this card component or render it, I don't always want to have to pass dev to it, because I know that that's going to be like the main occupation. So I just want to kind of have that as a default value. Well, here you can just add this default value right to this destructuring statement of your props. And then you don't even need to pass this to your card component. And I can remove that prop. And as you can see here, I still get my job is dev. And just to make sure that you can see that this is indeed working, I'll put web dev right here. And if we render that, you see I get web dev. So I think that by destructuring your props right away in your function parameters, it allows for a little bit cleaner of a functional component here within your JSX as well as within the body of your function. And I think it provides a nice way of adding default values. So this is just a quick React tip that I think that can help you improve your code quality just a little bit. So thanks for tuning into this, and I'll see you in that next one.